Hi, welcome to the Rittners Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. The time of the year, spring, and so we thought it might be fun to make a spring arrangement, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. First of all, our container. A container is a good place to start on any design. We have a container here. It feels really, really old because it has this kind of finish that looks very, very rough and crude. But actually, it's not so old. We got it from one of our local wholesalers. It's a lovely container, and we could use many different kinds of bases. The reason I like this one is it's got a lot of character to it, and it also supports a full block of foam. In working with a spring-themed design, we thought it would be kind of fun to start with this. Forsythia. Isn't this stuff amazing? Flowering branches. To me, that's one of the nicest things about the springtime. We get to play with some very, very cool flowering branch type materials. Our Forsythia today is courtesy of the folks of Blooming Beloit in Beloit, Wisconsin. And it's really neat stuff. And we thought we would start with some of our Forsythia and work it into our arrangement. And I'm going to start by placing some Forsythia in and place it around the design to kind of create the boundaries. In other words, let's place one here. Let's place another one kind of coming over there. And I'm going to place another piece of my Forsythia, placing it over onto this side. In other words, I'm defining about how big the design is going to be through the use of my branchy stuff. Of course, in my opinion, the great thing about this time of the year is the very fact that we do have Forsythia and we can play with it gives us branchy stuff with flowers too. It doesn't get any better than that. So I am defining my overall parameters of my arrangement, making use of some of my Forsythia. I might add some a little bit later. You can see this design, my viewer, is not a small one. It's going to be a fairly good-sized piece as designs go. Now, I've got an awful lot of foam real estate here to play with, as we call it, and I want to cover my mechanics. And so I'm going to take a little bit of some of my salal, and I'm going to place some salal here and there in there before I put any of my flowers in place. By doing it now, it's going to make my life a lot easier later. And so I'm taking a little piece here, putting a little piece there. In other words, using some small pieces of this. I'm not overly doing it in terms of my greening, but I'm just putting enough so that later I'm not going to have to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to fill in between my flowers. But I'm still leaving enough space so that I can get some of my flowers in. Now, let's see. We've got all kinds of neat things to play with on this design. Of course, we normally think in terms of a spring design as being spring materials like our Forsythia and other type spring materials, but they're universal favorites. You never can go wrong with hydrangea. And although I don't normally associate this as necessarily only a spring kind of product, you can't go wrong with this stuff because it's big, it's showy, and look, it fills space so quickly. And with a couple of pieces of hydrangea, notice, it's filled in, it's giving me a focal point, and it really gives a very, very cool effect to my design. Now, we can play with other things that are a little bit more of a spring kind of feel. For example, one of my favorites associated with this time of the year, iris. Iris. Aren't they gorgeous? And they are coming in so nicely at the present time. I'm going to work some iris into my design, and I'm going to take one, place it over here, take a second iris, place it coming out, shooting out over here. I'm going to take a third iris, and I'm going to stick my third iris smack dab right here in towards the center, in between my two hydrangea. Now let's see, what other things can we play with on this design? Oh, well, let's see. You never can go wrong with bells of Ireland. And so let's put a few bells of Ireland into this mix. And I'm going to put one over here, let it shoot out over onto this side. You can see this is not going to be teeny tiny. I'm going to be making use of a lot of materials to really make this thing feel kind of wild. And so I'm letting one shoot out over here. I'm going to let one shoot out over there. Let's get another bells of Ireland and let it shoot out over here as well, because I can make use of this kind of curvy thing and the fact that it does have length to give me an interesting effect. I have it going on over here. Maybe we should work something over onto the other side. And so once again, I'm going to take another piece of my Bells of Ireland. Forgive me, my viewer, while I'm trimming it. And I'm going to work it over here onto this side of the design. So notice we've got something now where we don't have just the forsythia shooting out. We have forsythia kind of giving us the parameters here and here and here and here, but forsythia is very straight. By working our Bells of Ireland kind of curving over here, coming up here, coming over here, it gives a more gentle effect, and it kind of gives counterpoint in terms of what we're doing on our forsythia. Now, of course, a spring design isn't going to feel like spring unless we play with some of these. One of my favorite flowers, tulips. Tulips. There's been a lot said in the industry about how you control your tulips. You know, they tend to drip, they droop, they go in every direction. I say, let's not fight with them. Let them drip, let them droop, let them go in different directions. Because if they go in different directions, they can give a more interesting feel to our designing. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to let this one kind of drip and droop down over here. I'm going to place another one next to it. Let this one drip and droop over next to its friend. And then maybe we can take another one and kind of work it over onto this side. In other words, what we're doing here is we're not going to fight with the fact that tulips have a tendency of moving around and dripping and drooping. I'm going to let this flower drip and droop just because it does and because it can add more character to my design. And I'm going to take another one of my tulips and place it again over here because it feels very, very rigid with the forsythia. The bells try to help mitigate that, but I'm going to let my tulip kind of dribble and dribble over to the side and come up with an interesting effect. And yeah, I'm going to work another one over here, letting it come down like so. So it kind of drips and droops and gives a very, very natural kind of feeling. One thing you'll notice, my viewer, this may feel different than some of the other videos that we've done. You've seen a variety of different styles of design and different kinds of designing that we've done throughout the year in the various videos that we presented. I'm often asked, is there a Rittner kind of style of design? And I kind of laugh whenever I'm asked that. There are many different kinds of styles of designing out there, and our whole goal at Rittners Floral School is to teach people floral art skills so that they can adapt and change their style of designing at will. In other words, the style that you see here feels a little bit more drippy, droopy, open and airy. It feels almost like somebody got some of these things out of a farm and then just kind of tossed them into a container, and you have a very, very natural kind of an effect. We teach that way so that you can come up with different kinds of styles depending upon your particular likes and, of course, the particular likes of who you're designing for. Now, of course, it would be nice if I had a few daffodils today. Alas, I don't. But I do have some sunflowers. And sunflowers are a very, very optimistic flower. They are very, very colorful. They're cheerful because of the yellow. And I am going to work a few sunflowers in here. I think that we can substitute this in place of a daffodil in a spring kind of design, and I think it works pretty darn nicely. And these mini sunflowers definitely are giving me a very, very cool effect. And I could stop at this point. I'm going to add one more thing on my design here to just kind of finish it off. We started with our forsythia giving us the overall parameters of the design. And what I'm going to do at this point in the design is I'm just going to add just a little bit more of my forsythia into the design so that it kind of comes through in towards the center as well. So I have a little branch of it. I'm going to work it right over here. And I'm also going to take another branch here. I'm going to break it down a little bit and work a little piece over here in towards this. In other words, I'm going to create some depth and dimension in my design using a few pieces of forsythia here and there so that it's not just in the background part of the arrangement, but also so that it actually goes from the back towards the front. So I have some dimension and depth there. So, what do you think, my viewer? Pretty cool, huh? Yes, there are many different styles of designs out there. The way we teach at Rittners Floral School, any style can be made quick, easy, and fun. And you'll notice that in this spring design, we haven't used a huge amount of stuff. We've used some forsythia. We've used 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of bells of Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our tulips, 1, 2, 3 of our mini sunflowers, a couple of hydrangea, and a few iris in here, and here. And we've come up with something that feels very, very natural, almost as if you gathered it outside, picked it up from a local farm, and then just kind of tossed it in to come up with a very, very natural and pretty design. On behalf of all of us here at Rittners Floral School, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. We thank you for coming in and visiting with us today, and we hope that you enjoy playing with all the different great things that we have available at this time of the year to come up with your own ideas in terms of spring floral art. We thank you for coming in and visiting with us today.